Good evening and welcome. The Eastham Conservation Commission will hold a hybrid public meeting on Tuesday, October 28th, 2025 at 6 p.m. pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, MGL Chapter 30A, Sections 18 to 25. Open Meeting Law, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and Chapter 155 of the Code of the Town of Eastham. And before we begin, this meeting is being broadcast on Public Access Channel 8 and streamed on the town website at and streamed on YouTube. It will be rebroadcast on Channel 8 and meeting videos will be available on YouTube. Before we begin, a quick reminder, while our meetings are relatively informal, the Commission uses a simplified version of Robert's Rules. The chair runs the meeting and everyone should speak through the chair after being recognized. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak. We allow discussion between commissioners, staff, and applicants and may extend that to abutters. For NOIs and RDAs, the applicant will present first, followed by discussion with the commission and staff. Once the commission questions have slowed, abutters will have a chance to speak, followed by other members of the public as time allows. The chair may set time limits if needed. Please keep your microphone muted unless it's your turn to speak, and let the chair know if you plan to record the meeting. Most importantly, please be respectful of others so we can keep the meeting productive and focused. I will take attendance and then we'll begin. Janet Benjamin.
Here.
Joanne Cossett is off tonight. Greg Douglas, not here. Mike Rivers.
Here.
Cinnamon Swevel.
Here.
Chuck Wagner.
Here.
And Karen Strauss. I am here. First up on our agenda is a public comment period. This is an opportunity for anybody who wishes to briefly speak about anything that is not on tonight's agenda. If you wish to do so, please let yourself be known. Okay. And seeing no one, first up tonight is a request for determination of applicability filed by Lawrence Wasko. Applicant proposes to replace bottom wooden steps, necessary support structures, cracked gusset plates and corroded bolts, repair railings, and secure vertical posts where necessary on the beach access stairs at property located in between 105 and 125 Shurtleff Road, map 10, parcel 237 and 238. And is there somebody here to speak to this tonight? Okay. If you would identify yourself for the record, please. We can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Maybe if you mute and unmute.
How's that?
Yes.
That better?
That's better.
Okay. Name is Lawrence Wasko. I'm the representative of the Beach Plum Beach Association that's in charge of maintaining the stairs between the properties that were mentioned. It gives us stair access to the beach. And what we're trying to do here is we have from a previous RA that we did last spring, we installed a set of wooden steps at the bottom of the aluminum steps. There's a set of aluminum steps. It's all in the documentation. Originally we had wooden steps at the bottom. They got wiped out by last winter's storms and ice, and so we got permission to put in new wooden steps. Seeing as these wooden steps are going to have to be removed between November 15th and April 15th and in that kind of time frame every year, We are now opting to replace those wooden steps with aluminum steps that can more easily be removed and or retracted or folded back up the stairs. That is that's the major item that we're trying to do here. We also know that there was some additional work that is needed on the stairs to ensure the stability of the steps, as is listed in the documentation that I provided. A lot of it has to do with anchoring the stairs properly onto the rocks and taking care of a few connection points where there may be corroded bolts and shoring up some lumber where necessary. So unless there's any questions, that's pretty much what we're trying to do here.
Okay. Cinnamon, Alex, and I were out for a site visit this morning, and I'm going to ask Cinnamon if she wants to talk about what she saw there.
Absolutely. Like he explained, the bottom stairs were wood. I feel like from the time you put them in till now that the bottom 2 steps have been covered up. Yeah. And so I think with the, aluminum steps, it would make it much easier. Like I can't even imagine taking out the wooden ones every year. So I think it makes a lot of sense to go over to aluminum. The other repairs that he was talking about being done, all the plates are very rusted. They need to be repaired. And also I could see where some shoring had to be done from the post onto the bottom of the rock, or the top of the rocks rather. And some other various repairs I could see were needed.
Okay. So do you have any questions for the applicant? Cinnamon?
I did not.
Okay. I do.
Sure.
It looks like it's going to be really hard to get some of those plates off, especially the ones at the rock. So what's the plan for that?
Well, actually, we're working with Anchor Marine, and what we're waiting for is Chris or Jay.
Norshow.
That's his. Yeah, he's looked it over. And if you're talking about the anchors for the rocks, yeah, those typically what's done there is they'll get new angle irons, and if the posts themselves are, because they had bolts in them, if the posts themselves are kind of chewed up from, the bolts and the action of the waves and whatever, then we would replace those posts, the 4x4s. As far as anchoring them to the rocks, typically what's done is they drill them, and then they put an epoxy in there, and they put the bolts in with the epoxy, and that's very typical. Yeah.
So I'm just curious about getting the old plates out more than putting the new ones in. How do you get are you replacing some of those? I'm just wondering how they're going to get the old ones off of there. They're very rusted, and
yeah, and in a lot of cases, the ones that are really rusted, I mean, it's possible that they'll just have to put new ones in and keep the old ones. They'll take the bolts and shear off what they have to do. And in some cases, that'll work to free up the bolts. You can actually pound, or if you shear off the bolts, you'll actually be able to. I use this kind of like a punch, and you can actually try to punch them through. But if that's not possible, you can then just take the plates, expand the plates, and make new holes. Yeah.
Okay. And then the application talks about doing either a retractable bottom stairs or removable. Have you made a decision on that?
No decision's been made yet, but it's one or the other. We know we certainly can't do it with the wooden steps, but we know that the steps will be narrower so that they fit, and they're either going to be foldable or something that can be pulled up. Yeah, that's the plan.
Okay, so we could permit for either with a decision to be confirmed with Alex before the work starts. I think I would like to see if you're going to be using, we do have the time of year restriction, as you talked about earlier. If you were going to use retractable ones, obviously you're not going to take them out, but I would like to see during the same time of year restriction, mid-November to November 14th to April 15th, that if you are using the stairs, that they be retracted after each use, just so that they're not hanging down for storms to impact them.
What do you mean by after each use?
So if you're going to be using the stairs during the period between November 15th and April 15th, when we typically have the removable parts removed.
Yeah, no, the idea with the retractable is if they're still in place, as opposed to being removed, the stairs would be deemed not usable. We would block off the stairs from use during that time period.
So
I mean,
you'd retract them and then you'd block it off. Is that what you're saying?
if they were retractable, for instance, if they were like on a hinge and we were to fold them back, yeah, that becomes a safety issue that we don't want to deal with. So we would block off the steps from both sides. You can't come up and you can't go down. Whatever what's required. I don't want to use police tape, but yeah, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We would put something up there to barricade the steps. Because anybody going down there and trying to unfold the steps, then they wouldn't be anchored either. That's not something we would do. Yeah.
Some applicants have wanted to do retractable steps so that they could use the steps all year round rather than okay.
Thumperton Beach is right down there, yeah.
So we can condition this so that the stairs are not used between November 15th and April 15th.
Yep, that's not a problem.
Okay. Turning to the rest of the commission, does anybody have any questions or comments? Janet?
Well, I had a question about the retractable versus the removable, but you already asked it. I have a question, and I hadn't thought of it before, but on some of the pictures I saw, the bolts that are in the stairs stick out outside of the stairs. And I was wondering if you are putting bolts in to the new stairway, if instead you could have them going in where people might not bump into them.
That's interesting. I printed all this out. So the pictures you might have seen. I don't know. Yeah,
we took photos at the site.
You're right. It's probably not something that, it's probably not so attractive to have them sticking out. And plus, well, nobody can really walk by them there because of the rocks and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I wouldn't want to do that. I'm trying to remember where they were, if they're bolts that were put in before we started working on it or whatever. But yeah, no, that would make sense. Yeah. To have them put in. Yeah.
Yeah. Janet's referring to some photos we took at the site visit this morning.
It could be, Janet, that some of the lower stairs, like if it's the wooden set that you're talking about, some of the lower stairs, I don't know exactly what you're talking about. It's possible that for accessibility to their carriage bolts, and if they're carriage bolts, you can only tighten it on the one side. And it might have been kind of difficult to tighten it when they were built. I don't know for sure, but that's a possibility. However, that being said, then you would try to make the bolt so it doesn't stick out too far. Yeah, yeah. I mean, just aesthetics in that case, but yeah.
Okay.
Good observation. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so Alex, anything from you?
Uh,
Okay. All right, so if we might have I just lost my notes. Apologies. Okay, so if we could have it's going to be a motion for a positive to be a -3 with special conditions for beach access stairway maintenance with the retractable or removable determination to be made before work starts with details to Alex and a time of year restriction on the stairs from November 15th to April 15th where there'll be no use.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Seconded.
Okay. Michael? Mike?
Yes.
Cinnamon?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So, thank you for coming to talk to us. Your permit has been approved.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, next up tonight is a request for determination of applicability filed by Eric and Beth Osterberg. Applicant proposes an addition and upgrade to septic system at property located at 109 Cole Road, map 13, parcel 074A. Is somebody here to speak on this?
Yes, good evening. Tim Santos from Merrill Engineers representing the applicant. I haven't been before this board in a while. Do you want me to share my plans so you can see it? Do you guys have plans?
I think we have plans,
Okay.
and I'm going to say I think this is a pretty minor permitting.
Yeah,
So
yes.
if you could just run it through us, and
Yep.
we'll see if anybody has any questions.
Sure, not a problem. So property is located at 109 Cole Road, currently developed with an existing single-family home. The entire property is located in flood zone X. The northern portion of the property is located in the 100-foot buffer to the flood zone, which kind of runs through the road. So there's a small portion of the addition as well as the water service currently in the front yard under the grass that the applicant is looking to construct, which is within your jurisdiction. The rest of the addition and the septic upgrade is located in, lawn and driveway areas, but it's all well over 100 feet away from the flood zone. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to address them.
Okay. I assume the water service is going to be a standard mole installation.
The correct.
Okay. And I really don't have questions. Does anybody else have any questions on this filing? Okay, so if we could have a motion to approve with a positive 2B and a -3 with a 24-hour work notice, sedimentation controls, in-kind vegetation replacement, and just to stabilize any disturbed soil.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Chuck? Cinnamon?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. Have a great night.
Okay, next up, we have a continuation for determination of applicability filed by Gail Badukian. Applicant proposes to flush cut 23 invasive Japanese black pine trees and planting beach grass at property located at 18 Horton Way, map 07, parcel 493A. And the applicant has requested a continuation until November 25th, 2025. Can I have a motion for that, please?
Okay.
And a second, please.
Second.
Okay, Janet?
Yes.
Chuck? Cinnamon,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Okay, next we have a request for certificate of compliance filed by Scott Chad for SE 1121 for the replacement of water lines and the installation of a filtration system for dwellings number 5, 7, and 9 of Shore Garden condominiums, a property located at 758 State Highway, map 21, parcel 063. And this is a filing going back to 2005. We were out there today, and it's really a little too old to see anything that might have been done and whether it was compliant. So I think really we just need to close this out and issue a certificate of compliance unless anybody has any questions. Okay, so if we could have a motion to approve a certificate of compliance for SE 19-1121.
Move to grant a certificate of compliance for SC 19-1121.
Second, somebody second, please.
Seconded.
Okay, Mike,
Yes.
Chuck? Chuck?
Yes.
Cinnamon?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Okay, and we have a request for certificate of compliance filed by Peter Wade for SE 19-25 for the removal of some trees, excavating and filling of the construction of a residence at property located at 625 Bridge Road, map 20, parcel 076. And this is an even older filing going back to 1975, which is only 3 years after the WPA was enacted. And somehow through several changes of property ownership, it never came in for a certificate of compliance. We were out there today for a site visit. There's really not much to see there. We should just issue this certificate of compliance to close it out. So if we could please have a motion to approve a certificate of compliance for SE 19-25.
Move to approve with a certificate of compliance for SE 19-25.
And is there a second, please?
Second.
Second.
Okay. Chuck?
Yeah.
Mike?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Cinnamon?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Okay. Next, we have a continuation of administrative review filed by Lori Sherman. Applicant proposes to replace rotted decking and some structural timbers as needed at property located at 20 Richard Lane, map 21, parcel 062E. And just to note, this is a dock. And is somebody here to speak to that? They must be at town hall, maybe?
Yeah.
It's hard to hear you at town hall.
Hear me now?
Yes.
You have Mr. Norja with us.
Yeah, you're cutting out a little bit when you speak. So, Mr.
From
Norge, if you could introduce yourself, identify yourself for the record, please, and run through this with us.
Christian Norjo, Marine.
Oh, we lost your audio.
Christian Norjo from Anchor Marine.
That's
you
a
hear me
little
now?
better. Yeah, it's a little. It's not great audio, but we can hear you.
How is the audio for the other members?
Yeah, I don't. It's breaking up. Does other people have that same experience? Yeah. Wayne, can you fix the audio?
I am working on it. It sounds fine on TV, so I'll see what I can do for you.
Is Wayne the IT person for Eastham?
Wayne is our video and Zoom person and handles the stream out to YouTube and public access.
Is he
Always-
there on site or is he?
Yeah, he's on site.
Okay, thank you.
And he never has any problems.
Okay.
Okay, could we have the gentleman speak again and see if that is better?
I am Christian Norjo, Bank Marine.
It
That,
still sounds a little fuzzy.
yeah, it's still kind of like breaking up a little in the middle of words.
Is my voice also breaking up?
No, you're good.
Okay. Check again. Let's have, we'll have our conservation officer speak. Once we get his clean, we'll know it might be microphones or something.
Testing, testing, testing.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
Okay, we'll try again. My name is Christian Norjo from Anchor Marine.
Awesome.
All right. So, Mr. Sherman's pier was built in 2001. In 2012, he elected to replace his pilings, where he received an order of conditions for that. Now he is seeking to replace his decking now that it's 25 years old. His pier is 120 feet long. Right now it has what they call Port Orford yellow cedar. It was a material allowed at the time, but probably not the best material. And it has rotted and is unsafe to walk on. He also has some structural members under his decking that were fir and not pressure treated. So in some places, they are starting to fail because of rot. So where need be, he would like to change the structural members while the decking is off. The proposed timber replacement would be pressure treated for longevity, and the decking proposed would be a 2x8 pressure treated with stainless steel screws. The method of removing the old decking would be to use a boat as a dumpster, bring it to the pier, remove the decking, put it directly into the boat, and then haul the boat out to dispose of the material. For bringing the decking, they've done in reverse. We bring the decking in the boat, put it up on top of the pier, and screw it down. This is probably a 3 to 5 day job. I think that's it for right now.
Okay, so how much? So you're talking about replacing all of the deck.
Yes, we're talking about replacing all the decking on the pier, but not the walkway going up the hillside where it crosses.
Okay, so that's 120 feet of decking, just to be clear. I think the audio's kind of, and then you're talking about replacing some of the struts and so on, right? How much is that? The stringers, sorry, the stringers.
Only
How
as
many-
needed. So we really
which-
don't know until we get the decking off of which one they replaced.
Okay, I'm just trying to get a sense of the whole amount of work that you're planning here. And I don't have it.
I would imagine that links.
The audio is breaking up again. Wayne, it's not just me. I'm asking the rest of the people on the Zoom. It's not just me, is it? Okay. I'm sorry we're having all this trouble for you tonight.
How's my audio, Karen?
You know, you broke up.
Karen, can you hear me now?
Yes. Let's hope it sticks.
So, like I said in the past, we replaced the pilings. When you build a pier, putting the pilings in is the biggest environmental impact
Right.
and the hardest part of the project and most time consuming. Doing the superstructure, the framing is relatively quick with, I would have to say, almost zero environmental impact other than floating a boat into the water. So I'm not sure exactly what else you're looking for.
Well, approximately how many of the stringers? You've done an
I could
inspection
guess at a
already.
third.
Okay.
That would be 5 or 6, excuse me.
5 or 6. Okay. Just trying to nail things down a little bit. I'd like to ask what kind of PT wood you're planning on using.
Well, we have 2 choices. We have the, I believe it's NBC and ACQ. I do not propose to use CCA.
Okay. So I think probably either of those are okay. I'm sure Chuck might have some comments on that for us as well, perhaps. Okay, that's sort of my questions for now. Anybody else have any questions? Chuck, maybe you want to weigh in on the PT?
I don't have anything to say right now.
I can barely hear you.
Yeah, you're breaking up too. That's fine.
Okay. Okay, that kind of night. How about, is that better?
Oh, well,
Okay.
I don't have any specific comments to add right now.
Okay. So I'm going to ask, anybody else on the commission have any comments? Okay. Alex, anything from you?
Yeah.
Uh, okay.
Really.
Yeah, can't really hear you. And it was going so well earlier.
How about now, Karen?
That's better.
Okay. Here, Mike. I guess the only question I have would be, if we were to limit the use of the boat to, certain high tides, is there a draft on the boat? We want to make sure that it doesn't obstruct or hit the bottom.
It'd be preferred for me to only do it at high tide.
Yeah.
There's no water there at low tide.
Fair enough.
Anything else, Alex?
No, that's my only question.
Okay, I think mine also is that any cutting of the wood should be done, I hopefully not while you're hanging over the water. For the replacement decking and stringers, if you could cut them outside of the resource area.
Okay.
Okay, so we cover all the questions. We covered the construction protocols. Okay. Okay, so I think if we could have a, Alex, you didn't give us any notes on, possible conditions here.
Yeah, so the conditions we can talk those through tonight. I would like to do a pre-construction prior to the work start. Our typical 48-hour work notice. As you mentioned, Karen, we can do cutting of all PT wood product outside of the resource area. Limit the use of the boat during high tide. And do you have any others you'd like to add to that?
I don't think so. I think that kind of covers it. I think we had, oh, I would like, when the work is done, just to have some details on what was replaced, submitted to the conservation office in terms of the stringers and stuff, just so we have that for our records.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll take that, and it was an AR, so if we could have a motion to approve with the conditions just mentioned.
I'll move.
And is there a second?
Second,
Okay. Mike,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes,
Janet,
Yes,
Cinnamon,
yes.
and I am a yes, so we are done. And Chris, thank you for being so patient with our technical difficulties. We appreciate it. Okay, so next up, okay, continuation of administrative review filed by David Henkel. Applicant proposes to remove some invasive plant species, privet, bittersweet olive, etc., and to trim native species, choke cherry, etc., that are extremely overgrown at property located at 35 Bayberry Lane, map 13, parcel 159, and applicant has requested a continuation until November 25th, 2025. So if somebody could make a motion and a second, please.
move to continue to November 25th, 2025.
And Joan, I'll jump in with the second.
Second,
Okay. Cinnamon,
yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Chuck,
yes,
Janet,
Yes,
and I am a yes. Okay, so next we have a notice of intent filed by Howarth Holdings LLC. Applicant proposes to repair, replace, and rehabilitate the existing timber bulkhead by installing a steel sheet pile bulkhead in front of the existing timber bulkhead at property located at 10 Ellis Road, map 22, parcel 018. And who is here to speak on that?
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant and the property owner. As mentioned, this property is located at 10 Ellis Road, but more than that, this property traverses two towns. It's also on 13 Old County Road in Orleans. So the property is known as the Goose Hammock Marine Site. It is containing an existing building for retail. It also has a pier, and the water edge of the property is protected with a timber bulkhead. The existing bulkhead was licensed and permitted and constructed in the early 1970s. And it's not just the bulkhead that protects this one particular property. The abutting property to the west is owned by the town of Orleans, which has a boat ramp, and the existing timber bulkhead is a continuation from the town bulkhead traversing along this property and protecting more than 200 feet of shoreline. For this particular project, the property bulkhead is approximately 140 feet. Last year, the town of Orleans approved an order of conditions for the town of Orleans to actually construct the same typical application that we're proposing for this permit. What the town of Orleans approved was installation of sheet piles in front of the existing timber bulkhead. And this property, being that this is the same structure that is more than 50 years old and suffering from some deterioration, this applicant is proposing to do the same type of installation. The difference between the project that the town of Orleans is doing and this project is that the entire bulkhead on the town of Orleans property does not abut a salt marsh. This property on the Eastham side, there is a salt marsh. The salt marsh is roughly in contact with about 40 feet of the existing timber bulkhead. So the project that this applicant is presenting is kind of a twofold construction. The side that is roughly 100 feet adjacent to the terminal point of the town of Orleans project will continue that same design and installation, which is all the timber piles that exist are going to be removed. New sheet piles are going to be installed along the face of the existing timber sheathing. And then when we're approaching the existing salt marsh, we intend to completely remove the bulkhead and install the new sheet piles without any extension seaward or towards the marsh. This way we protect the marsh that's there. Now, in order to do that, the contractor is going to be excavating behind the bulkhead to about the level of the existing marsh. This way we avoid the marsh from collapsing once we remove the timber components. Once the timber components are removed along the salt marsh, the new sheet piles get installed, the connections get done. Because the sheet piles is a corrugated face, what this ultimately does, it creates new salt marsh. Every time the sheet pile undulation is inward or landward, there's going to be new creation of salt marsh. Also, by the removal of the existing timber piles on the marsh, that area that's currently occupied by the timber piles is going to become marsh. To protect the cove or town cove from any potential silts, we propose to do a silt curtain on the water. This is for any potential silt producing activity. We expect it to be minimum, but there is always the possibility every time you drive sheet piles for some sediments to get waterborne, and the silt curtain will just keep check and maintain them within an enclosed area and allow them to settle and not continue down into the cove. And similar to what we presented to the town of Orleans last week, we know that the area is land under the ocean, land containing shellfish. And I also spoke on the phone with Nick Sanders, the town of Eastham shellfish constable. So the applicant is willing to accept some type of mitigation. One of the offers that we discussed with the town of Orleans was raking the shellfish animals out of the area that may be impacted and relocating them. Ultimately, the town of Orleans Commission put a condition that the method of dealing with the shellfish will be coordinated with the town of Orleans Shellfish Constable. So if the Shellfish Constable decides that it's better to relocate those animals, just rake them out and relocate them, or to offer a mitigation offset, some type of mitigation in the form of a fund into some shellfish funds that the town may have. But that's going to be discussed with the town shellfish constable. On the landward side of the project, there's going to be some pavement socket. So there's going to be some removal of pavement to be able to excavate behind the existing bulkhead and alleviate some of the pressure that the bulkhead is currently experiencing. Once we get to a level of about 5 feet below the surface, and once the new sheet piles are installed, the timber sheathing is cut at that level. That's for the portion of 100 or so linear feet of bulkhead that we're proposing new sheathing in front of the bulkhead. Once that installation is done, the tiebacks are reconnected or welded in place. Backfill goes in place. An improvement that we're doing with this project, once the sheet pile is installed, is that some drainage is going to be introduced to this site. Currently, the entire site is developed. It's either pavement or a building. And on the property, there is no interception of surface runoff. All the water just sheets off the surfaces and eventually get to Town Cove. What we propose on the landward edge of the new bulkhead is to install what we call a sand filter. The sand filter, what it's going to do, there's a 2-foot strip along the edge of the bulkhead that on the surface is going to be seen as crushed stone. Underneath this 12 inches of crushed stone, there's going to be a filter fabric, and it's going to be preceded by sand, clean, what they call Title V sand. Underneath that sand, there's another fabric and another layer of crushed stone. That lower level of crushed stone coincides with the outfalls or the weep holes for the bulkhead. Every retaining wall and every bulkhead should have weep holes to alleviate any water pressure that may build behind the structures and provide them longevity and avoid any failure due to buildup of water pressure. So this drainage system is an improvement that is being proposed for this facility that currently lacks drainage capturing. So overall, the project is just a replacement project, a repair project, and rehabilitation project of a timber bulkhead that's been failing after 50 years of service. The failure that is happening is the typical failure for all these timber bulkheads. Some of these marine borers are just eating away at the wood material, and it's creating some holes, and then sinkholes begin to appear behind the bulkhead. So this new installation is going to seal all that damage, and hopefully it will last another 50 years. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you so much. I have a number of questions, and we were out at this site this morning, Cinnamon, Alex, and I'm sure the commission has a number of questions as well. So I'm a little curious because it seems like this is a continuous bulkhead with the town of Orleans location. And I'm wondering why it wasn't permitted as a single project between the two locations. Because you're going, and as a addendum to that, are you going to do the work at this site and the work on the Orleans property at the same time, and is it the same company doing the work at both?
So the bulkhead that is on the town of Orleans property can only be done by the town of Orleans, and it has to go through the process of a bidding system for a contractor. And this property is a private entity. So the permits have to be separate permits, and the contract are handled differently because it has to go through a public bidding process for the purpose of the town. A private property owner doesn't have to go through that system. The applicant for this project wouldn't have the funds, such as the funds that are available for the town of Orleans, to do a bidding bidding system with prevailing wages and that sort of type of construction. But what we are trying to do is that once the town of Orleans does their work, then the contractor for this project will do the work. It will likely be separate contractors. We can't have both contractors on site. That will be too much chaotic and too much equipment to be occupying kind of the same general vicinity. So the town of Orleans is scheduled to begin their work fairly soon. I understand they're looking to start this year. So it's likely that this application's contractor will not start until after the town is completed.
Okay, so this is getting built afterward, and how does that impact your ability to tie this into the Orleans bulkhead?
So the Orleans project terminates, for those who went to the site, you know that there is an opening for the pier. So the Orleans project terminates just past the pier, and it matches with an I-beam against the face of the existing sheathing, the existing timber sheathing. This project will just tie into that, and will continue from that point on. So the town project kind of closes their bulkhead, the new bulkhead, without any open gaps. And we intend to connect to that closure and continue on towards the town of Eastham.
Okay. Okay, and then looking at where you're going to be working near the salt marsh area. So you're going to be excavating behind the bulkhead, removing some of the concrete and so that the sheet piles don't extend further out. So you're excavating before removing behind the current bulkhead, and then removing it and then installing the sheet piles, you said. So what is in place there to keep any sediments or whatever that are there, and to kind of protect it in between removing the bulkhead and putting the sheet piles in?
So right, to protect, for those who went to the site, you also saw the above ground fuel tank.
Right.
So to protect that fuel tank, which is kind of coinciding with the point where the salt marsh begins and the portion that we're proposing to perform a complete replacement, we have a temporary sheeting structure to hold the dirt behind that. We excavate behind the existing bulkhead, keeping the bulkhead in place to protect the marsh, to get to the level of the marsh. Once we reach that level, then the existing timber bulkhead gets removed. At that point, there should be no sediments that are rolling out of the excavation, because we're at the same level with the marsh. And then at the same time, we start driving the sheet piles. Once the sheet piles are in, then the marsh is protected, because the sheet pile will not allow sediments to cross over. But that's the sequencing. And of course, the contractor is planning on doing this by phases, sections. It's not like everything is going to be removed at once, because that will expose too much to the tides, and it will be too much of a problem.
Okay, so that makes sense. So this, you're going to be working from the landward side to do the work. Is that correct?
Right. So all the heavy equipment is intended to be from land. I will say there is going to be a workman's float, because to pass some of the hardware, some of the bolts, you require to have someone on the water side to pass the bolts and screw the nuts and so forth. So there's going to be a working barge, not barge, I'm sorry, a float on the water side to do that handwork and do those connections that are needed.
Okay, and that's going to be only at high tide, then, to avoid having the float
That is
impact.
right. So similar to the Orleans, that is a condition that was discussed at the Orleans hearing, that any work from the float on the water side to be done, I believe it was 2 hours either side of the high tide.
Okay. Okay, so while we're still in this corner, you're going to be putting sheet piles in Town Cove and then around the corner, and the neighboring property to the west has a concrete wall or bulkhead of its own. So how is this going to impact with that existing wall.
So the neighbor to the east.
East, is it? Yeah, I get a little confused about
Yes.
directions in that spot.
So
But
yes,
yeah, okay.
there is a
Yeah,
concrete,
east.
there's another retaining structure, which is a concrete wall like you all observed on site. And it actually, the concrete wall begins on this subject property, and then it veers further east on the neighbor's property. The existing timber sheathing bulkhead kind of goes slightly behind that one. So we intend to do the same. Once we remove that final pieces of timber, the new sheet piles are going to go right in that location to seal that connection with the existing concrete wall or bulkhead.
Okay, so no gaps.
No, we don't want any gaps.
Right, right. I'm just confirming. Okay. And then let's see. Okay, so looking at the sheet piles not in the salt marsh area, how far further out from the existing bulkhead do they extend?
So
How far,
it's roughly,
seaward? Yeah.
yeah, we believe it's going to be a smaller section than the one I called out on the plans. On the plans, we were looking at several sections of sheet pile. The one that the structural design is finally coming down to, it's an 8-inch sheet pile section. The one on the plan we called out for 12 inches, and all of our calculations was based on 12 inches because the existing piles that are there are 14-inch piles. So we wanted to stay inside the projection of those piles. So we designed everything and permitted everything on papers using a 12-inch seaward extension, but it's likely to be an 8-inch.
Okay. It's likely to be, or it is going to be.
That's the latest design we have, and if the material is available, that's what we intend to do.
Okay. And if it's not available, you'll go to the 12?
We'll want to see if we can permit the 12, but understanding that the 12 is too expensive and that the 8-inch will do the work. So that's structurally, we think we can get the 8-inch, but for permit purposes, we want to use the 12-inch just in case the 8-inch is not available.
Okay. Generally, we don't like to go further seaward, and DEP doesn't like to go further seaward on projects. So if we're permitting this, we want to do the minimal possible.
Right, and we did reach out to Brandon at DEP Waterways, and we provided this same information. And I think based because of the existing 14-inch piles and the proposed 12-inch projection, it's something that they feel they can approve as a modification to the existing license instead of issuing a new license to a new structures, because they wouldn't consider this a new structure. So we did have those initial consultations with them. Only by email, so nothing is formal, but after orders of condition, that is the next step, is to file a modification to the existing license.
Okay, that was my next question. So I think that we would want to see a letter from, or some kind of notice from the Waterways program that they're accepting this as a minor repair rather than a modification. That would be submitted to the Conservation Department once that is received before any work could be done. Okay, and then let's see, looking at the fuel situation, the application says that you're going to be moving fuel pumps and things like that. How are you going to protect from any possible fuel spills, and how are you going to have fuel spill containment on site for that and for any equipment that you're using?
So right, and it's similar to the discussion we had last week with the Orleans Conservation Commission. At the site, you all notice the above ground tank, and you all notice the existing pump and the hose reel that's next to the pump. So from the existing above ground tank, there are conduits and pipelines that go along the top of the existing bulkhead. All of these units will have to be disconnected, drained, disconnected, and removed and stored in a safe location temporarily while this work is taking place. So the pump unit will have to be removed from the concrete pad, moved aside, protected. The hose reels as well has to be removed, moved aside, protected. The hoses and all the conduits have to be removed and protected. One of the conditions that I believe I don't know how it came out as in the order of condition, but I believe the order of condition is about to be issued by Orleans. But is that a spill kit should be in place during any of these activities. I think it was also something that was further elaborated from one of the recommended conditions from DMF that there has to be proper equipment for fuel spills or things of that nature. And I believe
Right.
the DMF letter was kind of gearing to refueling of machinery, but during the discussions with the town of Orleans, we expanded that into also the work that needs to be done for the fuel pump and fuel system.
Right, and would be concerned about the same things. We do have a copy of the Orleans Order of Conditions that we have and the commission has seen, and we'll probably be discussing that when we get into our own order a little bit later. And then I think my final questions are around the stormwater work that you're doing. If you could just talk about that a little bit more, and then if you could tell us whether this is to deal with stormwater from rain events or whether it's designed to also handle any flooding, because this is in land subject to coastal storm flowage. And if it for the rainwater, point to which hard surfaces and paving that will be that the system will be collecting water from, and
So right,
whether and also whether the hydrostatic vents that you have in place would also work for flooding from coastal flooding as opposed to stormwater flooding.
right. To just answer the quick one, it will not manage any coastal flooding at this site. This site, however, happens to be slightly higher than the sites around it. The neighbor to the right is lower by several feet. The neighbor to the left is actually a boat ramp, which goes all the way down to the water.
Right.
So it's definitely lower. But no, this drainage is definitely not going to manage the flood waters in any event. I do know that about the back half of this facility, or maybe back 1/3 of this facility, slopes towards the bulkhead. Currently, there is no capturing of any surface runoff, and this is rain runoff, precipitation. So all that water practically cascades over the bulkheads and onto Town Cove without the benefit of any treatment. So what we've done and what I've done in other bulkhead reconstruction repair projects is that we do a trench drain, is practically what it is. And it consists of crushed stone to capture the water and not preventing and not allowing it to just continue to cascade over the structure. And it filters through the sand. So the sand and the filter fabric that separates the stone and the sand are the ones that are going to be filtering sediments, and it will provide TSS removal. We understand that it's not the best or the greatest drainage system that is available, but given the constraints on the sites and the limitations we have to work with, it is a vast improvement over something that doesn't have any drainage. Now, the
Right.
location of the whip holes are just about above mean high water. So the purpose for this is that we want to allow any buildup of water pressure behind the bulkhead to be released. And then anything that's between mean high and mean low is dealt up by the tides. Normal tides will just, we know that the tides influence the groundwater underneath this site, so that will continue to happen. But what we want is anything that is above that is getting built behind the bulkhead is released, but it doesn't just get released as just in and out. It is being filtered by the stone, fabric, and the sand. And that is happening for the entire length of 140 feet. So we are, the applicant is actually giving up roughly 2 feet of pavement with crushed stone for this to happen.
And I think we appreciate that you are taking this opportunity to manage some of that and to filter any runoff through the sand. So thank you for that. And I think that's my questions for the moment. So I'm gonna open it up to the commission and see if anybody has any questions. Mike?
Thank you. The question I have is about the sheet pile sections themselves. Walk me through how those sections are put in. Again, you're on the land side, I understand. What picks them up? How do they get driven in? How do they get attached?
So right, there'll be a crane. There'll be a crane on the land side of the site. The crane will lift those individual. Well, actually, before they start lifting them and putting them into place, there's a false frame that gets constructed, and the false frame, what it is some timber beams that kind of make the alignment of the sheet pile that you want. We know we're gonna go in front of the existing timber sheathing, but we don't want that to go any further. So there's gonna be a beam that holds that space from the sheet pile from pushing any further seaward. And then one sheet pile at a time gets installed to the depth that we're required to go. They may leave probably a couple of feet from finished depth because then they can come back and drive them to the final levels, but one at a time. And now each one of these section has a connection, so they kind of connect to one another and provides a seal seam between each of the sheet piles. Once all the sheet piles are in, what we call the whaler beams, which are those bulky timber beams that you see on the outside, those get installed and bolted through with another beam on the inside of the sheet piles, and that compresses everything together and keeps it aligned. So that's the methodology for the bulkhead.
And those sheet piles are pounded in, but there's no water that's being pushed into the sediment to try to loosen things up so it's easier to put them in. This is all from the top.
Right. Every time I've seen these sheet piles installed, unlike a round timber pile, because the cross section of these sheets are fairly small, they can go through the sand fairly easily. When you see timber piles, which by the way, we're not proposing timber piles, sometimes you get a starter sheet kind of jetting to get that pilot hole started and get the hole started and the pile will not move too much. But not for sheet piles. For sheet piles, because their cross section is so small, they can go through the sand.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Appreciate it.
Okay, anybody else? No? Alex, anything from you?
I just had a question about let's see, the silk curtain. I see the limit of work depicted on the plan here. So the silk curtain wouldn't in any way have any impact to the salt marsh, right? It won't be on the salt marsh itself. It looks like it's going to be, further off.
That's right, and that was a topic that we kind of dove in the Orleans hearing, but the Orleans Commission realized that the marsh was in Eastham's jurisdiction. But yes, so I did still answer the same question to Orleans. So what we intend to do with the silk curtain is to end it on the seaward edge of the peat bank. So we have a healthy marsh right there, and we have the sun peat marsh that it's always typical of the marshes. So that bank is where we intend to stop. We do not intend to bring the circuit current over the marsh because it will definitely do a lot more harm than good. So we ended up at the edge of the peat and then go the rest of the way to the west.
Thank you. And thank you for walking us through this technical project. This is probably one of the more technical ones that we've had in a while. And I'll just make a comment. You know, I'm looking back at the order of conditions issued, you know, by the town of Orleans, and I see that they conditioned the shellfish relay to be completed in consultation with the shellfish constable. You know, I certainly feel like that would be appropriate, and you know, if the Eastham Commission, you know, I would recommend them to consider conditioning something similar for the Eastham side as well.
Okay, is that it? You done, Alex?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Janet?
I want to thank you for a very knowledgeable, comprehensive presentation.
Thank you.
Okay,
Karen, can I ask a question?
sure. Amy, go ahead.
Raul, can you just spell your name for me, please?
That is RAUL.
And your last name?
All right, here we go. Lizardi. LIZARDI.
Thank you.
Chuck, any questions from you?
Oh, I think my major concern was handling the stormwater, and you've pretty much gone through that, so I'm okay. The fuel tank, I mean, they've got to have a fuel tank somewhere, so not a lot of options. So, no, I don't have anything else.
Cinnamon? No? Okay. Hillary, anything from you? Okay. So I think we should go over the order of conditions now. I think we covered fuel spills and from the pumps and from refueling equipment. So we need to have equipment on site to deal with any fuel spills from either moving the pumps or and containment from moving the pumps and from refueling equipment. We talked about minimizing the depth of the sheet piles to 8 inches if at all possible, but I think we'd be willing to allow 12-inch piles if that is not a feasible option. That the work float can only be used 2 hours on either side of high tide. I'd like to add that should any salt marsh be disturbed or damaged during the restoration work, even incidentally, that restoration may be required. Silk curtains to be in place, but not on the salt marsh, and that I think that there should be what did we talk about? That there should be consultation with the Eastham Shellfish Constable as to whether the areas containing shellfish need to have the shellfish relocated prior to construction. Alex, anything you want to add?
Yeah, let me just look through my notes here.
And then I'll ask everybody else if I missed anything.
Yeah, I would recommend the commission to condition. You know, you kind of touched on this briefly, Karen, but if we were to have the salt marsh documented with pictures prior to the start of work, during construction and then after construction as well, so that we can be confident that there was no loss of salt marsh during the construction period. And if there was, then we would require mitigation of some sort.
Mhm. Mitigation or restoration.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. Okay. And then the usual pre-site, on-site, pre-construction meeting. 48 hours notice before work. A declaration from the waterways program that this is not a significant modification of the Chapter 91 license, and that they are okay with the work. Anything else from anybody? Alex, anything else?
We would want to adopt the recommendations from DMF as well.
Okay, yeah. Okay, include the
Which I
recommendation.
see Orleans
Mhm.
also did that.
Okay, so adopt the DMF requirements. Okay. Anybody else have anything to add? Does that sound good to Raul?
I'm all good.
Okay, and then I'm going to ask if there are any comments from any abutters or any members of the public on this project. And hearing none. Okay, so if we might have a motion to approve this project with the order of conditions as outlined.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second,
Okay, Chuck,
yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
and I am a yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think that is it for the public hearings tonight.
No,
Next
I
we
think
have,
we've got one more, I believe.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm completely skipping over Bayview, and I don't know why, because I'm staring right at Laura and still skipping over it. It's been a really long day. Okay, so we have a notice of intent filed by Christopher and Elizabeth O'Brien. Applicant proposes to install a double sandra fence, beach nourishment, and beach grass plantings at property located at 85 Bayview Drive, map 13, parcel 012. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you. A good evening. For the record, I'm Laura Schofield from Schofield Brothers, and I'm representing the O'Briens at their 85 Bayview Drive property. As Karen just said, this project is the installation of a sand drift fence along the beach in front of their property. 85 Bayview Drive fronts on Cape Cod Bay, roughly in between Kingsbury and Cole Road, I would say. And so we have a coastal beach in front of the coastal bank, and they both front on Cape Cod Bay. And the point of the project is to protect the coastal bank in front of the house. There was a sand drift fence here in the past, but it has pretty much disappeared. And so the O'Briens would like to replace it. And part of the project will be to remove the leftover parts of the old sand drift fence that are still there. We're looking to do a double sand drift fence here. Christian Norjo is the contractor who'll be constructing the project, and his institutional knowledge of that stretch of the beach suggests that the properties to the north had some double sand drift fences in the past, and they're very buried right now. So they seem to have done a good job at building up a sacrificial dune in front of those properties, and we'd like to replicate that in front of this one. And I just want to say as an aside, we're not, I think my plan might be a little confusing only because on one area, I think it looks like we might be putting the sand drift fence like right at the bottom of the bank, and it'll actually have a little bit of space between the bottom of the bank where the sand drift fence is going. So the sand drift fence will go along the coastal beach at the base of the bank so that we've got some room to build up a sacrificial dune there. Access will be from Kingsbury Beach Landing. We're not asking to use any pressure treated lumber here. Mr. Norjo is planning on using oak for the construction of the sand drift fence. And we'd also like to include in our request to the Conservation Commission the ability to provide beach nourishment on an as-needed basis in the event that there's a storm event that takes away a big chunk of the bank or our sacrificial dune. We'd like to be able to restore that and just have that in place so that Christian Norjo can just approach Alex for a permit to do that. And we came up with it, of course, it'll be based on whatever the erosion event is, but based on the length of shoreline and Christian's experience in that activity of having to replace, or add sand fill for the beach nourishment, we came up with a budget estimate of 200 cubic yards. And we would also like to be able to plant beach grass once we have a dune built up there. I think that's it. It's a pretty standard sand drift fence and beach nourishment, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Laura. We were out for a site visit. Obviously, we met you on the way, going the other way. I'm going to ask Alex if he could just run through what the site conditions were this morning for us.
Yeah, Cinnamon and I we're both down at the beach, and the proposed fence is up against the toe of the bank. It is a pretty heavily vegetated bank. I'm trying to get myself oriented here. The north side of the proposed fence will be closer to the bank than the southern end of the proposed fence, so it's slightly angled. I guess we would want to ensure that that vegetation remains protected throughout the course of the construction of this project. And if if some of this vegetation could temporarily be relocated and then replanted, once construction is finished, I think that would certainly be beneficial. The existing fence is quite deteriorated. Some of the pilings are exposed, through the sand. Most of the actual fencing parts of this fence is gone. It appears to be. So yeah, do you have anything to add to that, Cinnamon?
I don't. Well, actually, I do have a question. The double fence was to the north of the property that was put in at the other property, and that's completely covered, right?
That's what we believe, yeah. And
Okay.
And we don't want to disturb the bank at all. I think my staking job might have been a little bad at the bottom of the stairs there, but we don't want to disturb the bank at all. And so there will be room in between the bottom of the bank and where the fences are going. And we can absolutely save vegetation. We don't have, that would be a good thing.
Cinnamon, any other questions for you? Okay, I'm gonna
Yes.
go. Oh, I'm gonna go, and then you, Janet, or do you want to go?
Go
You can go
ahead.
first.
No, you go
ahead.
first.
All right. So Cinnamon took some ground level photos for us at the commission, looked at after the site visit, and I also looked at the near map photo from mid-September. The coastal bank is very vegetated. It looks really good and I want to say healthy. And I'm not seeing much evidence of erosion at the beach level. So I'm wondering why the double fence all at once. CZM's Storm Smart fact sheet number 6 that covers sand fences talks about not putting in a second fence until the first fence is almost completely covered. So what's the reasoning behind doing it all at once?
I think it's just less disturbance and easier to do it all at once. I suppose we could consider staggering the installation. We'd like to do it all at once, but
I'm asking you to explain why do it now and instead of letting some sand build up on the previous one. Won't the seaward side fence make it more difficult for sand to build up over the inward fence?
I don't think so. I mean, when you look at what's going on to the north, it seems like it's done a really good job of trapping the sand. And then if you put it in all at once, then you don't have to disturb any of the fill and vegetation that you've managed to have accumulate in the meantime. So that would be the thought of doing it all at once, is just to minimize the disturbance and the and having to disrupt a dune that we are able to build up and having to just disturb the vegetation again with coming back in later. So I guess that's the thought process behind just doing it all at once.
Okay. And then now I can't remember in the last 8.5 years that we've permitted any double fences, but that doesn't mean we didn't do it prior to that. There is vegetation on the beach there that is in the line of where you're going to be working. Can that be relocated?
I think we can salvage that. Yes.
Okay. And then just the distance between the two fences?
It's just enough to walk in between the posts. So it's not whatever, it's just enough that you can walk between them. So they're not far apart at all.
Okay. And then the slats for the two fences, are they going to be aligned so that or are they going to be staggered from each other? I mean, the not the posts holding the fences in place, but the rails.
The whole thing will be parallel to each other. So once drawing it on a plan is one thing, once it goes into the field, there might be some overlap between or some staggering, I guess you would call it, in between the rails. But the idea is that you just have the one fence in front of the other one and that they line up.
Okay, and then I guess the last question is this going to block any sediment coming from the coastal bank and block any natural additions from the coastal bank to the sediment transport coastal system?
Well, we're trying to build up a sacrificial dune to protect the coastal bank,
Mhm.
but I think as we've all seen, if Mother Nature wants to erode some of that coastal bank, she's gonna do it. So it's not going to interfere with a it just depends on the storm. But it's not going to prevent that coastal bank from eroding if we have a giant storm event.
Okay, so it's not going to act sort of as a de facto small revetment.
No.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to go to Janet, and then I saw that the Earl Mountain Room had a hand raised. Was that
Yeah, I just
was
wanted
that
to
you,
mention
Alex?
that, yeah, I wanted to
Oh.
mention, Chris is also here if the commission has questions regarding, construction and
Okay.
protocols for that.
Okay, does Chris want to address any of what I asked? And otherwise we'll go to Janet and then Mike.
He's all good.
Okay, Janet, and then when she's done, Mike, you can just jump in.
I had the same question you had about the two fences.
Mhm.
And it seems to me as if it's being assumed that two fences are going to be needed. And do we really have proof of that?
I think we'd like the two fences because they seem to have done so well to the north. This is a house that was built in 2000. So this property owner is very interested in preventing erosion as much as possible because we're looking at soft solutions when it comes to this property because of the year that the house was built. So we're just trying to be proactive with protecting the bank and the property.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mike.
Actually, this is for the other commissioners for my edification. When we have sand drift fences, do we ever talk about future maintenance that needs to be applied to that drift fence? This fence obviously is in poor repair. It hasn't been kept up. What can we do to ask the homeowner to continue to monitor the fence going forward?
Well, we could require that they inspect it after, and this is something that was in my head that I didn't bring up. We could require that they inspect the fence after major storm events, clean up debris, and submit AR to do repairs in a timely fashion. And they're asking for nourishment so that if anything washes out from a major storm, that they would have the ability to add sand to fill back in any washout areas.
Thank you.
Laura, any thoughts?
Well, we would love the ability to be able to maintain the fence and if it needs repair to be able to do that. And that goes hand in hand with removing any damaged pieces of it from any storm event.
Any other questions from the commission? Anything else from you, Alex?
No, not from me. Or do we want to discuss nourishment?
Yeah, we probably should. So just to be clear, the nourishment amount that you're suggesting is not based on any particular formula or the average erosion rate at the site. It's more from Chris Norsh's local knowledge.
It's a guesstimate based on the length of beach and just using past storm events as a kind of benchmark or guide to come up with that budget number to put before the commission. But as I said, it'll be it'll also be on a case by case basis, depending on, what type of storm event that we get. But in any case, before we put any nourishment on the beach, there would be a conversation with Alex or any conservation agent before that happened. And the amount would be a part of that conversation.
Okay, so you want pre-approval for a possible amount rather than having to come and have that conversation over, let's say, an AR permit?
We want this notice of intent to include beach nourishment, and we're just coming up with a budget number. So that I think that would we think that would be like the minimum that we would probably be asking for. But we don't want to limit it in the event that we have some horrible event. We want to be able to basically respond to a storm event.
At the same time, I don't think we want you to be nourishing the sand fence kind of to jumpstart or to increase the sand accretion at the location rather than to replace stuff that gets washed out. So if we gave you like free rein to do the nourishment, that might be something that somebody might consider doing to kind of bulk up the sand on the fence. Chuck, go. You can jump in next.
Yeah, why don't you lay it out so that it's maintaining the angle and the elevation of the slope, and it's going to be whatever it takes to do that. If it washes out a little, you don't use much. Washes out a lot, you use a lot.
Right.
That would be a quantifiable way to do it.
Exactly.
Would you be good with that, Laura?
Yes.
And just how did you phrase that again so I can capture?
Maintain the elevations and angles of the slope.
The slope at the time.
Well, to use whatever's required to make sure that it's built back up to where it was at the time of permitting.
Okay, so that would have to be, so that is captured in the site plan, more or less?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yep, there's a note on the plan and the narrative addresses it as well.
Okay. I would be okay with that. You guys have any comments on Chuck's suggestion? Alex, any thoughts?
And so for the nourishment, just to confirm, we will not be using the 200 cubic yards. We will instead go with a condition stating that we will maintain the elevation and slope of the coastal bank at the time of permitting.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, is that an obligation to maintain that slope?
That's the question, isn't it? Chuck, your thoughts?
Well, my thought was that I didn't necessarily want to hang an annual nourishment obligation on them, but I think an annual review would be necessary, and I'm not sure exactly how to handle that side of it, other than maybe have our agent go on out and take a look, and if he thinks he needs it, and they haven't already decided to go for it, then ask him to. What do you think?
Laura?
I was just gonna say, it's not cheap to put beach nourishment down. It's
Right.
really expensive these days, so no one does it for fun. And I tried to set this permit up to kind of do exactly that, that if there's a storm event, if the property owner feels or that, you know, we need some more nourishment down there, that Christian could go to conservation, and that's exactly how I envision it working, that there's a site visit with Alex and a conversation about how much and what, you know, what is the end result going to look like based on existing conditions in the field, because it can change dramatically and it's hard for us to try and quantify something like that.
So we could capture that in the order of conditions as allowing up to 200 cubic yards of sand with the amount to be determined with approval from the conservation agent. Consultation with and approval from the conservation agent at the time the property owner's request to nourish the area.
Yeah, and I think I'm wondering about putting a maximum limit on there, just because I've seen some pretty major events that have gone on. So that's why I threw that number out there, just as like a baseline number. And
that is quite a bit of sand, though. 200 cubic yards.
Yep.
So more than that would be quite a massive event, right?
Yeah, we hope that we don't have to do that. That's for sure. I guess if we had a big, huge storm event and we needed more than that, we could always come have a conversation with the commission. So we could leave it.
Because we like to have quantifiable amounts of things in the orders. So if we allowed in this permit up to 200 cubic yards of sand, the amount to be determined at the time and approved by the conservation, determined in consultation with the conservation agent, and the amount approved by the conservation agent before any installation.
Yep.
Would that work, Chuck?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds kind of like we're going to permit this. And we have some special conditions for sturdy sand fences that Alex put together. Have you had a chance, Laura, to see those?
I haven't.
Okay. Alex, can you run through that for us?
Yeah, my apologies, Laura. I should have sent these out prior to the meeting. These are pretty boilerplate, you know, from prior orders. You know, informing the contractor engineer about the conditions, an agreement to follow the order. Qualified contractors will complete the work. Order needs to be recorded. Work can't start unless all other permits are acquired if needed. Appeals period, right of entry, 3-year term. Our liability condition. Approved plans and supporting documents. We've got our condition for beach access, which for the record, you were going to use, is it Kingsbury Beach? Or, yeah, okay. DEP sign, delineations, pre-construction meeting, work notice, limit of work, you know, it's not quite necessary for this project. Is there going to be mechanized equipment for the installation of the fence? Yes, okay. Material storage and staging. Getting construction debris off the beach in a timely manner. Vegetation management and restoration. I know we spoke tonight about doing some beach grass plantings. So we will speak to that in the order of conditions. No fertilizer or chemical biocides. Does the commission feel like an as-built plan is needed for a certificate of compliance?
I think that's always nice.
Okay. Then we have our maintenance condition as well. And then nourishment, as we just spoke of before this, and then certificate of compliance.
And we wanted to add the relocation of existing vegetation.
Yeah, so let's put that under vegetation management and restoration. And we could phrase that by saying, vegetation within the limit of work, shall be relocated and then replanted after construction is completed.
That sound good to everybody? No, Janet, you had your hand up. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
You had asked at one point, and I wanted to say that was a good thought that Chuck had to proceed.
Okay. All right. So that sounds like we're ready to have a motion, I think. So if we could have a motion to approve this project with the order of conditions as discussed.
Move to approve with the order of conditions as discussed.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Cinnamon?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Okay. Thank you, Laura and Chris.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.
Okay. And that concludes the top part of our agenda. I have lost my agenda, so hold on a second. It happens at least once a meeting, so I have a copy open on my computer also. Okay, so we're up to minutes. So we have minutes for September 23rd, 2025, and minutes for October 14th, 2025. And has everybody had a chance to review them? And before we vote to approve them, does anybody have any last minute corrections or comments here? Okay, I'm just going to say thank you, Amy, for always doing a great job with this for us. We know it's not the best, most fun work, so we appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
So if somebody would make a motion to approve, and if somebody would immediately offer a
Move to
second.
approve the minutes for September 23rd, 2025 and October 14th, 2025.
Second.
Thank you. Cinnamon?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I am a yes. And then we have, okay. So do we have any updates on any violations from you, Alex?
No further updates on violations this evening.
Okay, and do we have any liaison reports? Janet?
Nope.
And I don't think I do either. Okay. And so I've lost my agenda again. It's been a very long day. Okay, so any education
and training.
Thank you. Anybody have any education and training updates for us? I I have one. There's something coming up. I'm just going to mention, sorry, to look at my calendar to remind me. There is a lunch and learn at noon from the MACC, climate smart provisions for local wetland regulations and bylaws that some of you might find interesting. I'm also just going to mention that the climate committee is having 2 sessions this week, one at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning that they'd like committee members and staff to attend if they could, but the public is also welcome. That is at the library. They're having another session by Zoom on Thursday at 6 p.m. and you can find details on the town in the town calendar. And I think that's it for education and training. And tonight we have some other discussion as well. And I'm going to ask Alex to take it away.
Yeah, this is just an update to the commission. We'll have this as an agenda item for our next meeting later in November. So if you recall, we will have one meeting next month, given that Veterans Day falls on the second Tuesday. So our meeting in November will be on the 25th. Is that right? I don't have a calendar in front of me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Side tangent, but we do have a property owner who would like to donate a parcel of land off Sparrowhawk Lane to the Conservation Commission. This is a vacant wooded parcel behind her home. This is adjacent to the rail trail behind
Willie's Gym.
Yeah, behind Willie's Gym and kind of near Tea Time as well.
Mm-hmm. Near Dory Lane and the houses there as well.
And so I was speaking to Rich Bienvenu earlier today about this, and it is his understanding is that this should be brought to the Conservation Commission for review and consideration and possibly acceptance, and then be brought to the select board to ratify that acceptance of the donation. So I'm not sure if we have any formal procedures in place to accept gifts. And so this is something I'll have to look further into with Hillary as well. And, have a more, formal discussion about this at our upcoming meeting in November. But I wanted to mention this to the commission, this evening, just to kind of keep you updated as to this will be kind of coming up for your review in the near future.
Janet?
Why wouldn't it go to the Conservation Trust instead of to us?
They offered it to the town. To the Conservation Commission specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is the property owner wants the parcel to go to the Conservation Commission.
And we are under the Conservation Commission Act of 1957. We are allowed to accept gifts with the approval of the select board. The same thing under Article 97 of the state constitution. We can discuss whether, once we get more information in front of the commission and schedule a site visit and so on, we can discuss whether we want to accept the donation. That is one of the things that would be up for discussion. I think we also want to get the input from the Open Space Committee as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I just received this today, so I don't have a lot of further details to share at this time. Mm-hmm. But again, we will have this as an agenda item coming up, and of course, getting Open Space's input on this would also be important.
Yeah, I'm just going to mention, if you don't mind, Alex, that I did look it up, and it's a 1.9 acre, very wooded parcel with no road frontage. So the only access would be from the rail trail, which is not a limiting factor necessarily, because we have other properties that are accessible from the rail trail. So just things to think about before the next meeting, and yeah, it'll come up then. Alex, and I think Rich wanted it to come to our attention tonight because we do only have one meeting in November, and the property owner would like to move this forward. We also, just to remind everybody, only have one meeting in December as well due to the holidays. So 2 meetings left for the year. Hard to
Wow.
imagine
And
that we're there
2025
already.
is a wrap.
Yeah, been a year and a half, I think. Okay. So anything else anybody wants to say before we adjourn for the night?
Happy Halloween.
You as well. And just thanks everybody for continuing to do such good work. And if somebody might like to make a motion to adjourn, and somebody might like to jump in with a second. This would
Move
be
that
a
we
good time.
Second,
Okay. Chuck,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. And good night. See you
Night, everyone.
in a
Thank
while.
you.
Good night,
And-
everybody. Happy Halloween.
You
Thank you.
too.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thanks, Wayne.